I want to ask you all one question. I'm going to start with a question this time. So how many of you have read a book by Dan Senner called Startup Nation, the story about the miracle of Israel? I see a couple of hands. So why I'm saying this, it's not a promotion, it's not a literature lecture here, but what I'm saying is we have a pleasure of 5 gentlemen who are maybe not in the book, I'm not pretty sure actually, but I engage you to read after it so you will know if they're in the book. But we're gonna live story from their own experience of how Israel, with 8 million people, quite a similar amount concerning the area of the country, would have more startups in NASDAQ than in the whole crowd here at Login. So this is quite a story we want to follow, I think, as a small country as Lithuania. We have this slogan, small but sound, and I think that's something to learn. At the moment, I think we're as managing director of Enterprise Lithuania said at the very beginning, he said, we're proud of basketball, that's what we're known for, but I think Israel is a good example, which is the second destination after Silicon Valley for startups, so I think we should position ourselves in that direction. So I want to invite our guests for panel, and please meet Tom, Ori, Avner. So the guy's Ilia is going to be moderating this panel, so he's going to be in a couple of seconds, and also Eli. So please give a round of applause. And I engage everyone to come back.
Labas Vilnius! Wow. Okay, guys. So, I have just a short sentence, as always. I have a lot of friends here, and it's not about you, but Lithuanians are great people. But they sometimes complaining about that. We have our country not in the city, not in the center of Europe. We have we have a bad weather. We have we have a small salaries here. We don't have a big names. We don't have a we don't have a startup nation here or something like this. And I'm always telling them, guys, in my opinion, you have everything is best. And the one thing that you really right with this is the bad weather. But the bad weather is ended just a couple of weeks ago. So you don't have a snow anymore, you have a great weather, and in my opinion, that's why we're here. Okay, so let's start. Let me first of all introduce the guys. Avner, he's a director of, let me just, yeah, I'll be correct. Avner, the Director of International Economic Development at Tel Aviv Global City Administration. Ori Glezer is a co-founder and managing director of IDC Elevator, one of the most professional influence startup accelerator in Israel, and in my strong opinion in the world. Tom Bronfeld, the co-founder and managing director in DC Elevator, his partner. Eli Fux, serial entrepreneur and investor, doing a lot of great and smart stuff here in Lithuania and Baltics region. And me, as you know me, I'm running startup accelerator, which is helping to startups from Eastern Europe, from Russia, from Ukraine, from Baltics region, to get better through the Israel style. So, guys, I would like, first of all, let's speak. In my opinion, let's convert it to something very Israeli style, very flexible and very, very talking between us. I would like to start from Avner. Can you tell us a bit about about the Israel miracle and Israel miracle of economics and how it was started and when it was started? But because as far as we know, Israel was before 95. Israel was just another banana republic with the 2 companies in NASDAQ, and that's it. So what's happened in 95, and what's happened, which is at the end of the day we have right now?
Does this work?
Yeah.
So I actually think that due to my age, I should probably give this question over to Eli, since when in the early 90s I was still in school. Eli, would you like to answer this question to start off about the beginning of Israeli high-tech?
Yeah, let me, okay. Hi, everyone. So I'm a little bit more older than this group. So yeah, the Israeli high-tech started eventually. I will cover what Ilya said. I think Lithuania is in much better position than Israel when started 30 years ago. So my career is around over 30 years in the high-tech industry. So basically when really the high-tech industry started in Israel, so you don't have enemies around you, right? You are located in a very good strategic spot. And we started in Israel, we have a lot of enemies around us. We don't have natural gas, and today we have natural gas, but oil. So the only thing that we could be, focusing and investing is really high-tech. And I think the originality, and this is one of the great benefits of Israel, originality starts due to the situation that we've been. So a lot of entrepreneurs been born in the Israeli military. Okay, so after they graduated, so there are a lot of know-how, a lot of, thinking outside the box. Basically, we get the fruits or the seeds in the military. Also, a lot of immigration come during the years from former Eastern Bloc, Russia, and other countries. So basically, a lot of people that graduated universities came to Israel and could start thinking about new ideas. Now, in terms of building the industry, it means that the government also need to be very supportive or very influential in this process. So we have certain programs, I don't know if we'll talk about it later, that really help entrepreneurs that comes with idea, and they can get some initial funding in order to create some product. So, and through the years that I've been in the industry, so for example, my career started at Intel from '85, so that really was at the beginning, even the PC era, before the PC era. However, through the innovation that we could create, certain development in next generation silicon, Intel really identified that we have a sort of talent that and I think through the years they invested billions of dollars in order to create this infrastructure. That's it.
So maybe, do you want me to say a few words about specifically about Tel Aviv?
No, let's talk about so what actually was any influence from the government side to the economic? What happened in '95, where about 1 million people came from Soviet Union to Israel, and they was always looking for, they were started to look for job and so on. From the one perspective, from the other perspective, we had the whole industry of IT was just at the beginning. So why the government at some point decided to look into the IT, and why they created this program, Yuzma initiative, why they create this program to help to the entrepreneurs, to help to create these entrepreneurs, to create this different initiatives. Why it happened?
I think that first of all, there was a lot of the Israeli high-tech was established due to the military R&D that was happening in Israel at the time. And there were a lot of spin-offs from military R&D companies. There were projects that failed and were closed down, and then it left a lot of very high-quality engineers without a job, and therefore they spun off into new companies. And again, at that time, I was very young, but essentially the way the story goes is that the Israeli government identified the opportunities of this industry, and there wasn't yet a real VC industry, certainly not in Israel, and I think everywhere in the world it was very early stages for the whole industry, and therefore the government gave R&D funding to sort of kickstart that industry, and essentially all those programs, the government programs of that time, eventually developed into Israel's current more developed VC industry.
So they gave some kind of taxes benefits or something like this. So they was dealing with the real money. Where does money came from? I mean, because
it was government money.
From government money. Yeah.
The chief scientist and a lot of the programs still exist. The Israeli government still invests in private sector R&D today.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Eli.
So as they mentioned now, that the government really can provide some first step or a kickstart. But from that point, there are a lot of what we call angel investor or private investor, like me, for example. I'm also investing in companies. And in Israel, by the way, it's well developed. So I think this is a very important point for the Lithuanian, in Lithuania, that local business community and business people that maybe are involved in various businesses will be investing and sponsoring startup or technology. And even though in the previous panel you heard that an entrepreneur can fail one time, second time, that's okay. But if you really have the right vision and you want to build a successful company, it must be backed also by the local business community. And that's what the venture capitals, when you come for raising the investment, usually they ask, who were your investor? Did you invest it by yourself or somebody else sponsored you on that issue? So that's very, very important, and that's what happened in Israel. We are investing a lot in our companies as private investors that are coming from various industries.
Tom, I would like to ask you a question about what's going on right now. I mean, because you are in new generation entrepreneurs. You're running one of the most successful startup accelerator in Israel. So how we can compare what was 10 years ago and what's going on right now? What is the main age of Israeli startups today and so on?
Okay, so I think we were basically talking about right now the incubator program that the government started back in '91 because many people came from Russia, from Soviet Union, and they had a lot of talent. So they tried to find a way how to monetize them. So it was R&D, chief scientists. But as the phase of innovation becomes so fast, even these programs become less efficient and because you need to move much faster. And government all the time need to be updated. They did a tremendous work of basically kickstarting the whole innovation. They're very good with biotech, clean tech, and etc. But I think now we live in an area, and I'm looking also to the US, what's going on in the Bay Area in New York, when people can just start their company from scratch, from nothing, and just being supported by the ecosystem. So I think that's the most unique thing that is going on right now in Israel, same as in New York, same as in the Bay Area. And you mentioned Lithuania as a country that has similarities to what's going on in Israel. We don't have like a bad weather, we have a good weather, but we have all kind of other problems as you know. And I think it's all about monetizing talent. It's all about building an ecosystem that support from scratch in companies. It starts from the lawyers, it starts from the accountants. It's basically teaching all the service providers around us how they can basically help start companies and enjoy the benefits of them growing and becoming paying customers. So this is what we started basically in Israel, building this ecosystem and then building our entrepreneurship community and letting the ecosystem empower our community. So we start from investing directly in companies in very early stage, supporting them with more than $180,000 worth of package of sponsorship and services. And we're also providing them capital to basically leave their job and have money to pay for rent, beer, and pizza and just work all day until they get something done. And I think because Israel, as we were speaking about, has a 12-year-old industry of people of sold companies, build companies, relocated to other markets, they can actually come and make it such a fascinating and amazing place for the discovery part of actually how to solve things, how to solve problems. And I think if you take, the situation of what's going on here, if talent really exists, it's all about finding a way how to monetize talent.
Yeah, there's a lot of great startups here. So it was exactly my next question to you. There is many great ideas and very high level of design quality, very high level of R&D quality here, and very smart entrepreneurs. But how there is any possibility for them to apply into the Israeli accelerator? Because we all know about the Y Combinator, we all know about Techstars and 500 startups and so on, and we know that Americans they are not investing in the non-American company. So the guys actually, it's not only from Baltics, but they're relocating themselves to they're making the legal entity in US, and only after that they're able to be on the same level with American startups. So what is the situation in your mind? What do you think about Israel? There is any difference?
I think the biggest difference in the ecosystem is the fact that, same as here, we don't have a market around us. You're 3 million people, we're 8 million people. So every person, every company is being capped by this sort of market. So if you don't find a way to scale your companies, basically reach other markets, not necessarily the US, it's not the only market. Europe is the market, you're closer to Europe. Asia becoming big and going to become bigger and bigger. So I think in the end of the day, it's for us, like if a company comes from, it doesn't matter which country, we feel that Israel is one of the best places as it's being built for the discovery part of actually how to build a company. And we've built our ecosystem emphasizing the fact that we have to reach to other markets. So our program consists of 3 months in Israel and 1 month where we bring all the companies to New York. We're starting now to do the same in Berlin. So I think this is the way small countries with a lot of smart people should be thinking. How can they create innovation? How can they build an ecosystem and a community? And I think it's also about educating the culture of taking risk. So Israel, we're all speaking about the army, but it's just a little, I think, a little point in what's going on there, because the army, what's unique about it is it teaches you to solve problems. It doesn't teach you how to make a business. It just teaches you how to solve problems that are impossible, not in a business setting. So a lot of people in Israel are problem solvers, but they don't have a mindset of consumers. We just now, everybody talking Israel Startup Nation, we just recently got iTunes to work in Israel. So with all the glamorous about it, it's all the time about innovation and solving problems and actually building a segue to the market. And I think as we're speaking about Lithuania and other countries in the region, countries that have realized that this is what they should do have really kickstarted their ecosystem and their community to start building bigger things in their homeland.
Yeah, let's speak about exits, because it's it's the most sexy thing in every in whole life of all startup and every startups. As far as I know, there is something like 400 exits last 4 years, something like this. Ori, can you just update with numbers?
I think that the real number is 400 exits that gained $15 billion to the Israeli market. I think that it's of course, it's a huge number. I don't know if there is any other country in the world except of maybe Silicon Valley, that can actually get there. But I'm actually a little bit worried, because the Israeli ecosystem is now developing into a new phase. I think that, as my partner Tom said, I think we become more of a talent nation than a startup nation. We need to find the best talent and to help them build the next big things. And the next big things probably is not going to be in chips or medical device. And I'm not saying that because it's not going to be, just 80% of the capital is going to internet and new media companies, which means that even if you support a company in your country, in the end of the day, when she will grow in B round, C round, D rounds, or even before IPO, she will have to get probably she's going to get more money from the actual market, which means VC funds from the US or from China or from any other place that you're going to actually act in the market.
Yeah, but what is the concrete process, let's say, for a Lithuanian startup who, let's say, on your opinion, guys, will fit your criteria and actually doing some global, even local, for local market, but there is any possibility for this startup to apply and to enter your startup accelerator?
Yeah, so I think, It's a very good question. There is a thing with the visas to Israel, right, Avner, that is making it tough. But you know, of course, for us, and I can tell you, listen, all you need to do to really kick off a startup is you need a good team, and that's it. You know, the ideas are commodities. Who cares? Like, you know, everyone has a good idea, but that's not the issue. You need a very good team. They will probably gonna pivot after they will start. But that's so. If you have, let's say, a group of 3 or 4 great people with great computing power, we would love to meet them.
And what kind of issues they will stuck? So this question to Avner: what kind of issues they might be stuck with? Regarding to relocate even for 3 months, for 4 months, relocate to Israel. As far as we know, everybody knows that Israel is is a pretty specific country because first of all, it's not like US. You can come to Israel. It was never done before. No one startup from abroad was done any acceleration program in Israel. So it might be the first step of it's something completely new. So what you can tell us about this, Avner? Do you have any things from the government side, from the Tel Aviv municipality side, regarding these initiatives?
Okay, first of all, Israel is a very immigrant society. Israel is established as an immigrant society, so the Israeli culture and communities know how to accept people coming from abroad, people who perhaps don't know Hebrew, who are not so familiar with the culture, and bring them into the community and let them connect and network with the community. So we already have that experience. You're right that the traditional high-tech industry was mostly based on local talents, but the industry has changed. Like Ori mentioned, we're moving a lot more towards web and mobile development, and I hope that in the next few months we're going to have a new visa in place which will allow foreign startups to come to Tel Aviv, to come to Israel and establish their startups.
You mean it's not tourist visa? Because as far as I know, there's almost no...
Look, there's two things. At the moment, for a tourist visa will allow you to come for 3 months and take part in an accelerator program, for example, or to sort of get the feel of the place and connect and meet interesting people. The visa that we're working on will be a special startup visa which will allow foreign entrepreneurs to come and establish their companies in Israel, and by that take advantage of the talent, the experience, the mentorship, the investors, the whole ecosystem which we have in Israel, they'll be able to take advantage of. What we're working towards is that in the next couple of years we'll be seeing more and more Israeli startups which have foreign co-founders, something which we don't have enough of today.
So you don't think that it might be a new concept of Israel? I mean, like it was 20 years ago, to convert a whole country, or it's probably Tel Aviv because it's the area which you have a great deal with the startups and investors. So to convert this place into the whole country accelerator, not just for IT, but it's going to be also for agriculture and for clean tech, biotech, and so on. So this might be a new concept to create some kind of hub of whole country, or maybe Tel Aviv as a city?
Definitely. Tel Aviv was recently, and again, Israel is a very small country. When I say Tel Aviv, it's the main city in Israel, but of course, the ecosystem is a lot broader than the city of Tel Aviv. And Tel Aviv was recently ranked as the second best place to open a startup in the world after Silicon Valley. Okay, so that's pretty amazing, because when you take where the location of Silicon Valley, right. In the US, the most attractive place, and compare it to the geographic location, the geopolitical situation of Israel, to be ranked the second most attractive place to open a startup is a serious value proposition that we have to the world. And I definitely see in the next few years Israel developing as a model, as an accelerator for countries whose ecosystems are still in development. I think in a knowledge economy, I think we all know this, a knowledge economy, it's all about the flow of knowledge, a flow of know-how, and making these networks, having people coming to Tel Aviv and working with Israeli entrepreneurs and then going back home and bringing that know-how home, and also bringing know-how to Israel. Okay, there's a lot of know-how, especially in the new industry which we're seeing today, web and mobile, which is missing in Israel. We have very good technology, but we're less strong on other aspects of product and design. So I definitely see that model developing.
Okay, great. So I know you prepared a presentation about Tel Aviv as a startup city. So here we go. You can proceed with this.
Can we see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a very small presentation because we're sitting here from Tel Aviv, and I assume, how many people here have been to Israel? Can we have a show of hands? Okay, more than I expected. So I just wanted to give you a little sort of understanding of what of Israel and Tel Aviv. You know, we spoke here about the sort of the early development of the Israeli VC and the government programs. But the truth is that there's two important things to make a true tech ecosystem. One is the infrastructure, which is very top-down, which can start off with government incentives and these sort of things. But that's less important. I think the most important thing is culture. And that's something that's bottom-up. That's something that's going to come from the bottom. And what I want to say about Tel Aviv and Israel as a whole is that what really made the work there isn't really the government programs and the funding or even the VCs. It's the creative culture. I think a lot of times we forget that startups and high-tech aren't just a business industry, but they're a creative industry. And no one thinks that Paris or you know, Paris didn't become a center for art because it had venture capitalists investing in art. It became a center of art because it had freedom, diversity, the coffee shops and bars where people would hang out. It had sex, and it had a lot of sort of things like that. And I think about Tel Aviv is again those same values. So this is Tel Aviv just over 100 years ago. This is the day that Tel Aviv was founded, and in this photo there's actually a lottery happening where they're giving out through a lottery the first plots of land in Tel Aviv. So that's what you call a startup. That's a city-level startup, because that vision, okay, you can imagine that entrepreneur, the guy standing behind everyone, is the guy who actually founded Tel Aviv. Akiva Aryeh, his name is. And he had this vision of a city, of a modern city in Israel. At that time, there were ancient cities like Jaffa and Jerusalem. And those sand dunes became the modern city of Tel Aviv within 100 years, which is pretty amazing. Just for those who don't know where we're located, that's more or less between the east and the west. It's a very small city, area of 52 kilometers squared. You can compare that to London, for example. You can see we're really just a spot on the map. Our population is 400,000. In the greater Tel Aviv area, we have 3 million. It's one of the youngest cities in the world, which again is very important and contributes to our ecosystem, because of most of startup entrepreneurs, risk takers are young people. 33% of the city are between the ages of 18 and 35. We have 14 kilometers of sandy beaches and some beautiful women as well. 120 kilometers, you can laugh once in a while, it's okay. 120 kilometers of bicycle routes. Now, what is the city? So first of all, creative talent, okay? Every entrepreneur knows the first challenge an entrepreneur has when he starts a startup is to recruit talent. Your first pitch is to the people who are going to work for you, not to investors. Best gay city, 2011 we were voted best gay city. Creativity can't exist in a place where there's no freedom to be creative. Capital of Mediterranean cool, we were ranked by the New York Times. And as I mentioned, the second best place to open a startup by a recent report from the Startup Genome. Who is the city? Who are these people who make it work? So first of all, we have the cumulative experience, which we discussed from the early 90s, the high-tech industry, which has given a lot of experience, the mentors, the smart money, the investors. Walkability and serendipity, because it's a very small city and it's a very sunny city. 300 days of sunshine a year. A lot of the city, a lot of the activities are done outside. So, you go outside, you drink coffee outside, and in that way you connect. You always meet people by chance. You walk down the street and you meet someone by chance. And again, in a knowledge economy, that's so important. Networks and knowledge transfer between people. I love this photo. Yeah, this guy, he actually roller skates a lot around Tel Aviv. I don't know if you guys know him. You see him? No, you've never seen him? So, of course, it's about daring. Someone said in the previous panel. So this is our ecosystem. We have over 600, it's actually almost 700 early stage startups. Just in the city of Tel Aviv, that's the highest number of startups per capita in the world. Based on thousands of world-class talent, dozens of meetups and events, co-working spaces and accelerators, and experienced mentors. And again, like I said at the beginning, I think that ecosystem exists because of the culture, and it's got to come. To create a true ecosystem, it's got to come from the bottom. It's got to come from the young people at the bottom, and you shouldn't wait for, no one should wait for government to do too much. It's got to come from the young people, and that's it. We invite all of you guys to come visit Tel Aviv and take advantage of the great ecosystem. I'm sure the elevator will be happy to host you.
Yes, thank you very much, Avner. My next question to Ori, there is a what kind of startups are expectable from Israel, and in your opinion, and what kind of startups are expectable from Lithuania, for example, if you know what I mean?
I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there is always like Israelis. They always was pretty cool in everything about the technology, right? And everything, even hardware. It was the beginning of everything. And Americans, they always was pretty cool regarding the e-commerce and the different smart ideas.
So I think that I don't know the Lithuania market as good as I would love to, and I hope that in the future we will know much more. I think that we are Israel is much more of a mix between Silicon Valley and New York. So if New York is more of ed tech and new media, and Silicon Valley is more of I would say SaaS businesses, e-commerce businesses, I think that we are kind of a mix because we have companies that has been acquired by U.S. companies, and they came back to Israel. The founders came back to Israel, and they bring the knowledge with them. So you will find people that that been in Silicon Valley for 10 years and came back to Israel, and of course they are mentor most of what they know. And you have people that coming from the edtech industry and they're coming from New York, and they bring you what they know. So I think it's more of a mix.
I see. Yeah, it's like they're always about like Israel, some kind of extension of California, like Avner said. Israel, but what else? What we have else? Because it is cool to be a second market, but why not to be the first one? My question to Tom.
You mean Israel? How you look at it?
What we have? What our difference with US with Silicon Valley system?
The biggest difference, and this is what we're working a lot in Elevator, is the fact that there's no one to sell to in Israel. There's no corporate culture. You don't bump into someone from YouTube or Google just going down the street. You don't have a drink with someone from Facebook. So you're pretty much your arbitrage of knowing what's updated, what's going on, is not really synced most of the time. So you have to actually sit in a place that is far 5,000 miles and try to innovate to consumers that you don't really know. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that, trying to tap into a market, especially like Israel. But I think Israel created sort of a culture segue between the US and Israel, something that has been happening for a long time in all kind of different levels. And you have a big community of Israelis also in the Bay Area and also in New York. We're targeting New York right now, and I think New York is another interesting point because it's a trending city in terms of tech. So 2008, the market turned. Everybody were in Wall Street, investment banker. After that, they all got fired and started building companies. Now the future of the city is going to be built on technology. They're building the Cornell Technion thing. So all of the mindset of the city is how to bring tech people and engineers and actually build startups. And I think this is another place that's becoming even more interesting than the Bay Area, since it has so many different industries. And I think right now startups live in two ecosystems. One of them is startup land, where you have investors, angels, entrepreneurs, and the other one is the industry that they're trying to tackle. One goes to retail, one goes to fashion. So all the industries around us are actually also in the startup business. That's, I think, one of the most interesting things that is happening. And you see another trend that even, biotech or clean tech is becoming software-oriented. So you see med tech. So I think as we talk about a lot in Elevator, right now we're focused on web, mobile, and things that are like information technology. But it's, I think in 2 to 3 years, we're going to be doing hardware and biotech and consolidating all that together and building technology that, you know, consumer technology. Right now, we're also, you know, tackling one of the things that we noticed as we were building our ecosystem is how much, and I think this is a generic thing, how much the population, and I'm talking about Israel, that is a very educated place in terms of startup, how much education is missing in that term. So one of the things that we're going to do next is open sort of a school, a university for tech entrepreneurship and design. Basically thinking about that our industry right now have the ability to hire 30,000 more people, but there's nobody to actually teach them what to do. So I think that's another thing that countries that are trying to build ecosystems should be thinking about. How can they take people and build sort of a task-oriented ecosystem of education? Just teach them how to code, teach them how to design, and then implement that as you're building startup. And as Ori was saying, it's not about the idea anymore. Right now, we're not like our next class is, we're going to be less focused about companies that has an idea. We want to find teams that have no idea and bring to them ideas from the market and actually help them pivot around us. Because again, it's all about the team, it's all about the talent, and it's all about finding a way how to monetize that.
Okay. Can you tell me just how things work in Elevator? I mean, let's say you made a deal with a local startup from Lithuania. What is the next step?
So basically, they have to relocate to Israel, of course. And
I suppose they doesn't have to be a Jewish to be.
No. We consider ourselves international, universal. We're not like, there's no such thing. So basically, they're coming into a program which is a 4-month program. The first month is very much about taking the conception of what you think your idea is or what you're thinking that you're doing and actually breaking it. And that's why we have our community of mentors. We have more than 100 mentors from Israel and from abroad that we use to actually help the companies realize, is this a real problem that I'm solving? Is this a real need? Am I really can scale this company? Am I really focused on the right thing right now? And we've seen, like in the 2 classes that we have, that companies have pivoted 2 to 3 times. We have a company that pivoted like 4 times and got funded for the 4th time. So we really encourage pivoting and changing your idea. And I think that's something that happens in an environment of innovation that all the time encouraging you to fail fast and not just be focused on your idea. And once you're just sitting at home and you don't have anybody around you to actually give you feedback, you most likely will be wasting your time for a long time just, thinking that what you're doing is the right thing. So also, every entrepreneur in the world, one of the basic skills that he need to have is to make people want to help him. Because there was no one that succeeded without people helping him along the way. And as I was in the US last month, and I was speaking like in a panel similar to that in Colombia with international entrepreneurs. And the biggest problem that everybody have mentioned for them to scale their companies is the fact that they don't have relationships with the right people and in the right place. And I think that's what Elevator is also really focused about. We consider ourselves in a way brokers of relationships because we help people introduce them to each other, make them work in teams, and make them create relationship, like first date, second date, and that's how you build a community. And if you look to the future down the road, like the way we see it, I think the whole idea of venture capital is broken. We see funds just disappearing right now. We see the model not working. And we think that the people that will make the biggest economic upside and the most money from innovation and technology will be people who will own the biggest talent communities in the world. And that's what we're building in Israel right now.
Just a short numbers question to Ori. How many startups passed through your program already, up to date?
Up to date, I think it's, so we've seen over 1,000 of company, and we invested in 16 by now. We're planning to invest in 20 more this year. Yeah, so we take 10 startups every batch, up to 10 startups, and usually we see around 400 companies, 450 companies before we choose.
And how many startups got the followed investments after graduation?
So we have almost 90% of the companies got follow-on investments. So I guess that if the company is not really, you know, like we're doing a lot of work with them, so they should look good enough to be able to raise capital.
Yeah, so I have like a 10% of fail rate.
Excuse me?
10%
Yeah, 10% of failure.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. So my next question to Eli. You are the first pioneers to create a bridge between Lithuania and Israel. As far as I understand, you're doing or trying to create some kind of deal flows between the two countries. What is your opinion regarding this? This is hard business, or you think that it's just uncovered territory or uncovered?
Yeah. What we are again, it's my second or third visit here. I think. What we are trying to do, first of all, I'm also as an entrepreneur, and in my past I did several co-founding companies and eventually sold them with an aggregate value of over $1 billion. So in our portfolio and as companies that we are investing in seeding in Israel, what we are creating, I think, and checking the possibilities with the Lithuanian market or companies is really find the bridge how we can co-op between the companies that have been established in Israel and find the right peer company or partner company that we can team up here and eventually track investment from both sides as well. As the guys mentioned here, also the venture capital market, the business model didn't approve, or let's say was not so successful as it assumed to be. So there is a lot of need for funds, for investment. Therefore, we see a lot of startups in Israel approaching us as private investors to be involved in investment in much more further investment rounds. Like usually as a seed investment, you go to private investor or angel investor for a seeding and maybe Series A. What we see today, is that we see companies are coming and requesting investment for Series B and Series C. That in those rounds, the sum of the investment is much more higher. So that basically creates a different approach or different thinking of which companies you can invest also. As if I go back to the Israeli industry, so Israeli industry basically started from silicon, from boxes, from hardware devices. That means, or medical devices. That means the investment around these technologies are huge. To invest in silicon, I've been in Intel and Marvell. We sold company to Marvell. To invest in silicon technology, sometimes it's tens of millions of dollars. Now, when you see the market is moving in towards a cloud-based, internet-based application, so the investment or mobile application, the investment become much more lower. Of course, the complexity to develop becomes much more simple and easier. So the technology barrier, it's not a major technology barrier. However, the investment round, we see more and more companies coming towards a private investor or private entities, like private companies that could invest. So I believe the bridge that we are investigating now, discussing with the local entrepreneurs here, is really find the right technology and the right partners in order to merge or to create a pairing of mutual technologies and products and go to global. From my experience, and I think we mentioned here, since our market is also very small, that means we always, when we created the company, we were thinking globally. Okay, we were thinking how we try to win United States market, go to China. So that's the first thinking about when you set up the company. And I created, maybe I'll summarize about that. I created some, through my experience, a small philosophy for entrepreneurs. I think it can be very interesting for you. That you always, when you want to think to create a company, think big. Means when I would like to, from my idea, when the end of the day I would like to be. Now, the road is never straight. So from the day you establish your idea until you exit or go IPO, it's never a straight line. And all the entrepreneurs will tell you. So always the line is like that. But always think big. Start small, meaning you need to be lean and mean. The budgets are shrinking. You always need to keep on your budget. That means start fast, start small, and move fast. Move fast, that means you need to be aggressive and move to the market. I think previous panel also said, first thing you need to do is to find some customers that you can provide some pilots and some technologies that the customer can evaluate. And the most important is really the team. You know, who are your partners? Who are your followers, friends that will take you to this road as entrepreneur? And second, find the right mentor with the right experience that can also come with financing, come with the experience, and can help you to drive the strategy to the company, because you cannot start from the day one and come to the end with without any system.
Yeah, thank you, Eli. It's like think big, you know, it's also a great slogan of IMAX, you know, so they also think big. Avner, my question to you about, what do you think, how government might influence into the such, you know, such deal flow between, you know, the international startups, except of startup visas? What else actually you think that government need to do to create and to invest into the local ecosystem?
Okay. Like I said before, I very much, first of all, I believe in a hands-off approach when it comes to government, although I work for government. It also makes my job a lot easier to have a hands-off approach, because I can get up in the morning and not do anything, and that's great. That was a joke. Sorry. First of all, I think that, like I said, there's a lot in this specific industry, in this specific ecosystem, there's a lot of it which is cultural. And I think government has got to do a lot to promote an open and diverse culture and society in order to allow the ecosystem to exist. So for example, in Tel Aviv, we're working not directly to promote startups. We're not giving them money. We don't know to give money. The city of Tel Aviv, and I don't think any city or any government knows to choose to give money to this startup and not to this startup. What we do what we do know how to do is to give the necessary environment. So we're working a lot towards open government, free Wi-Fi. This year there's already launched in Tel Aviv free Wi-Fi throughout the city of Tel Aviv. In the streets, on the beach, we have 80 hotspots throughout the city. We've opened up city databases to programmers, and we created a competition so that they can create apps based on the databases. So these sort of initiatives
and they have a great shared space, the library in the city.
Okay, another thing that we're doing is we're taking public spaces, such as libraries, and as I think we all know, today's libraries are less used than they used to be when perhaps we were children. Today, you know, you have Google, everything's online. People less and less going to libraries, so the city thought, well, we have these amazing spaces, these public libraries, what are we going to do with it? So we opened a co-working space for startups, and we gave the public library a new meaning. So we're trying to make the city more accessible, more open, more democratic, and we hope that by those values, we allow the ecosystem to develop and become more competitive. Again, I think that's a much healthier approach than sort of direct investment in specific companies, which is something that government never knows to do efficiently.
Thank you. Tom, let's speak about the exit. Because it's always interesting to the people, especially the guys from industry, what kind of exit, exciting exit last year, or probably you know already something about this year. What do you know about what was happened, let's say, what was most influenced last year regarding the exit in Israel?
I think what we're saying that is exciting, we were 2 years before, we were looking more semiconductor, we were looking more of IT exits. And I think in the last year, Israel has crossed the line of actually building things that are more web-based. Facebook have made 2 acquisitions, one of them in our building, so we feel very lucky, of Face.com. Yeah. Actually, Avishai, that was supposed to be here, his flight was delayed, is doing, we don't look at it as an exit because the company is growing and just, you know, it's 400 people working and just became like the most sexy place in Israel to work. They might do an IPO soon. So I think we're looking a lot of the internet sector, web-based, of companies actually pursuing this sort of part of the market. And I think we see it because more and more entrepreneurs are going for that. They're all looking at, on the Zuckerberg, on Google, on actually thinking, okay, I don't need to be a scientist to build a company that will succeed. And I think that's a very important lesson for entrepreneurs, to actually see people that are like them, that are not scientists. Some of them have actually didn't graduate from school or whatever, actually go and build a company. And I think, and they just like choose a new sector in the market and went for it. And I think that's the biggest thing that is going on right now in Israel. We see also venture capital trying more to invest in that area.
How many venture capitals in Israel up to date, plus minus?
I think we had like at the peak of the bubble, we had like, I don't know, the 50, 60, and now they're vanishing. Some of them are, as they called zombie funds, just, holding their capital and not making investment. And I think since the innovation part starts so early down the road, they're kind of, and they have so much problem of taking the risk at this point, they're missing out on, what's going on the big opportunities. This is what we're really focused about, because we think that, as everybody knows, Instagram was 8 employees and created $1 billion value in 1 year. So you look at the trends, like how it's exponentially growing. Google took 6 years to be $1 billion company. Facebook 3 years. Groupon took 8 months, and then the last year in the valley, 12 companies became $1 billion value. It also go vice versa, where $1 billion value just crash. So we live in an area where we can actually create $1 billion value with 8 employees, not too much venture capital, and just, just build things. And this is, I think, what we see right now in Israel, and this is how we try to educate our entrepreneurs and our ecosystem to actually build things, find if there's a market for that, and iterate as they go. And we feel like if you fail as a company that was part of our program, and we feel that you as an entrepreneur succeeded in what you've done, come again. That's what we want.
Right. Ori, and what is the story about Waze? They denied the investments from Apple, and can you tell us about?
Yeah, so I think that it's well, if you know the founders, I think that you would know that they're not going to sell the company. I think they build this company more from their heart than to make money, and I think that Waze become a huge thing.
Not to make $500 million.
No, listen, I think that even if now someone would put $1 billion offer on Waze, I doubt if they're going to sell the company. Okay, I think that they believe that it's going to be the next. I would say the next Facebook, although of course it's not similar in any way. But I think that Waze is growing dramatically these days in I don't know 30 and something countries, and I think that they're not going to sell because of the culture of the founders.
Is Waze used in Lithuania?
Excuse me?
Is Waze used in Lithuania? Do people here use Waze?
I don't think so, but
do people here use Waze? How many people use Waze? You must always get stuck in traffic because it's a social app. You need more people.
No, they just. I think they're just picking up some, how they call some prizes, some bonuses of, but it's not covered here, like in United States, for example. And what can you tell me the story about the Get Taxi and some pretty famous startups?
So I think Get Taxi, what you hear everybody that you speak on Get Taxi say that I thought of this idea a year ago, because it's that much of an obvious idea of just why we're going into a taxi, paying cash, why can we order it, why are we speaking on the phone, and someone just created an app and went, just competing directly with all of the taxi companies. And they're doing a tremendous job, but they're going to a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems, especially now that they try to launch in New York. the lobby of all the taxi drivers just, went against him. So I think it's still like a model that is fighting like the union, and I think generally Get Taxi is going on a place that we really like, which basically is killing the middleman. Every startup that we see that comes for going to kill the middleman or like an inefficiency of sort of a process that is going on is always interesting to us. And I think that's like one of the things that Get Taxi was really great. And you see right now Uber, you see Lyft, and I think we're going to a place where we're building a sharing economy where a lot of people, are not going to have real jobs and just going to start monetizing themselves from basically driving people around and helping them, cook a dinner in their house. We have an interesting company called Eatwid in Israel that basically built sort of a restaurant model without having a restaurant, letting people cook in their house and basically getting money out of it. So you just find, so it's all about, I think, this sort of concept that are really interesting.
Tom, Ori, Avner, Eli, thank you very much, guys. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm afraid we don't have any questions because we're going to have to rush in for the pitch challenges. So if anyone has any questions, please catch these guys. I think they're approachable.
Yeah, if you have any questions, you're free to approach us, any one of us, and just shoot with your questions. Thank you.